Today, I'm going to go over 100 obscure Pokemon facts, and I challenge you, if there are 10 facts that you didn't know about in this video, you should definitely subscribe. Let's do this. Whenever Volbeat is happy, it twerks, and you can see for yourself by rubbing it in X and Y. On April Fool's Day in 1999, the Nintendo website claimed that Luigi was the evolution of Lickitung, and even showed him in Pokemon format and explained how to obtain him. In the cartoon Adventure Time, Jake's mom has a weapon room with a Pokeball inside of it. I wonder what Pokemon she has. Nuzleaf has nipples. This is a scratch sprite that was found in leaked files dating back to 1998, and to me, it looks like an early concept of Lugia or even a scrap evolution of Dunsparce. Electivire's cry comes from an online guitar sample and can be heard and bought in Zero G's Chemical Beasts library. Just hear for yourself. Apparently, Pokemon are not born in eggs. They're actually placed in an egg-shaped incubator until they're strong enough to break out. And apparently, the incubator is made from dirt and grass. Spearow is actually colorblind. In the very first episode of the anime, we see through Spearow's perspective, and what do you know? Everything is black and white. The first time Red has ever spoken was not in Pokemon Masters, but in the Spain version of Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. He says, "I'm using my full restore," when he uses a full restore. The GS ball stands for Greatest Smith's Ball, so I guess that means this is the hardest ball to craft. Hisuian Electrode actually has another form, and this is what it looks like. It was once part of an apricorn plant, which is why it has a butthole. There used to be a plant stem there. Ivysaur's Pokedex entry states that when the bulb on its back grows large, it appears to lose the ability to stand on its hind legs. But in the very same game, its sprite is literally standing on its hind legs. So Professor Oak is a liar. Liar! In the Pokemon game speaks very quickly, and his text speed is set to fast even if you have the medium speed toggled. As of right now, Kecleon still hasn't been added to Pokemon Go, which is very strange. Palkia is a water type because Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina represent the three forms of matter. Dialga is a steel type because it is a solid form. Palkia is the water type because it's a liquid form. And Giratina is the ghost type because it is a gas form. There was an unused trainer class called Chief in Pokemon Red and Blue, and this is what he looked like. But Choke's Focus Blast in the anime literally looks like a Kamehameha wave, which makes this Pokemon 10 times cooler. In the Sword and Shield Adventures manga, the male protagonist, Henry Sword, only uses Pokemon that have gear, so like Sirfetch'd with his sword, Thwackey with his drumsticks, and Girder with his steel beam. Ash has never once used his Pokedex on his own Pikachu. Only Dawn, Trip, Cameron, and Go have done so, unless you count Ash's Rotom Dex who voluntarily did it itself. This guy's name is Dude. Tentacle is more of a water type than a poison type. Actually, 90% more of a water type than a poison type, because in his Pokedex entry, it says that 1% of his body contains the organ that makes his poison. If you run away from the Sudowoodo in Gold and Silver, it will hop away. In 2001, there was an event squirrel that had the move Zap Cannon, and this is the only squirrel in Pokemon history to have that move. Supposedly, Pokemon can shrink themselves, and that's how they fit in Pokeballs. Just see what Professor Laventon says here. And apparently, this isn't even new information. Supposedly it was stated in the 1996 Japanese handbook called Pokedex as well. Cyrus, the main antagonist of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, is only 27 years old. Well dang, that's my age. Maybe I should become a main antagonist of a Pokemon game. In Ruby and Sapphire, there's a tile on Route 134 that pushes you back even though you're walking. So this tile just doesn't like you or something. For a brief time, a Twitter user known as Screen Shakes made it possible to play Pokemon with their avatar, and the game's commands would be made by replying to their tweet. So basically, it was a Twitter plays Pokemon. In Generation 4, shaking Pokeballs on the battle screen indicated that a Pokemon will level up if you use it against the current Pokemon. So if you ever wonder why your Pokeballs are randomly shaking, well, now you know. In Sword and Shield, traded form Pokemon will keep their native name when they evolve. So if you were given a Japanese Wooloo, it'll evolve into a Dubwool named Bawulu, which is his Japanese name. This is what the beta version of Sneasel looked like, and it's kind of reminiscent of how Sneasel looks in Legends Arceus. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, Pokemon who evolve through friendship cannot evolve until the player obtains the National Pokedex, though it will still prompt the evolution and fail. If you view Aaron from below, you can see that it's always smiling, so either it's very happy or it's evil and it's planning to take over the world. Ghost-type Pokemon have had niche immunities throughout the generations. In Gen 1, they are immune from getting paralyzed from Lick. In Gen 2 and 3, they are immune to the move Glare. And from Gen 6 and onward, they have been immune to effects that prevent escaping, like the move Mean Look. Hitmonchan can't learn Sucker Punch, but its counterparts Hitmonlee and Hitmontop can, which makes absolutely no sense. Santalian Forest in the Chaos region is an almost carbon copy of Viridian Forest from Kanto, and even spawns the same Pokemon. Every champion besides Diantha is related to someone in their corresponding game. Blue is Professor Oak's grandson. Lance is Claire's cousin. Steven is the son of Mr. Stone. Wallace is Lucia's uncle. Cynthia has her grandparents in Celtic Town. Alder is Banga's grandfather. Iris's grandfather is probably Jaden. And Leon is Hop's older brother. There was a glitch in Legends Arceus where if you run around Arita enough times, the universe would explode. Just look at this. This unnamed NPC gives you a level 15 Tentacle if you only have one Pokemon in your party and none in your PC, and this can be done indefinitely. Every Pokemon that learns Mega Kick has a unique animation in Pokemon Stadium. Just look at Jinx's, she's got big ol' feet. The movement of party Pokemon are based on their HP. If they have low health, they will move slower. If they have high health, they'll move faster. In the Adventures manga, Blue explains that it's the Pokedex that stops a Pokemon's evolution. So in the games, when you press B, it's actually your Pokedex emitting a wave that cancels the evolution. Nidoking, Nidoqueen, the Ghastly line, and the Zubat line are the only Generation 1 Pokemon with unique type combinations that are still unique to this day. Each Regi is based on different periods of time. Regirock represents the Stone Age, Regice represents the Ice Age, Registeel represents the Bronze Age, Regidrago represents the Middle Age, and finally Regieleki represents the Modern Age. Salamence was inspired by Devilman, an 80s anime superhero. Not counting the anime opening, Dugtrio is the first Pokemon we see in the flesh, meaning it's the first Pokemon we see in the anime. If you talk to your Greta on top of the cliff on Route 47 in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it might say it's scared of it, even though it's supposedly the creator of all land. Up until Generation 6, Delibird only learned Present naturally. Now it can learn Drill Peck as well. A certificate of authenticity was given out with an event Mew back in 2000, and only around 600 were given out, making this piece of paper quite rare. The reason why Alona's Decatur is the dragon type is because it's based on the Dracona palm tree, which are often called dragon trees. Luxray has X-ray vision, meaning that it can see through walls, and here's what it looks like in the anime. When you think about it, the move Beat Up literally summons all of your party Pokemon to jump the opposing Pokemon. I would love to see this move used in the anime. If you look at Gardevoir's face in a certain way, it looks like an abomination, almost like a Picasso painting or something. The Ultra Space theme from Pokemon Sun and Moon can be played forward and even backwards. This is what it normally sounds like. And this is what it sounds like when played backwards. Pretty cool, huh? You basically ruin this guy's life if you defeat him in the battle tree. He says, if my boss finds out about this, I'll be fired. Then my wife will divorce me, which is pretty grim. Mewtwo is 6'7" tall, which is a lot taller than I expected. There is a glitched Pokemon known as Dash that is quite literally an invisible shiny Bulbasaur. The Rayquaza cutscene in Ruby and Sapphire has a random duration, and funny enough, this could actually kill speedruns if you're unlucky enough to get a longer cutscene. Campbell's chicken noodle soup cans look like Pokeballs, and you will never be able to unsee this now. Basculegion is the first Pokemon to have all 5 vowels in its name. Poor Miss Travis, she probably would have had it if it weren't for the character limit back from those days. Sprout Tower from Gold and Silver was almost a stage in Super Smash Bros. Melee, but the idea was scrapped and replaced by the stage Pokefloats. Skiddo has not been available since its debut game, Pokemon X and Y, making it a pretty forgettable Pokemon, especially when you realize X and Y came out almost 10 years ago. Rotom's name is Motor Backwards, which fits insanely well with this niche. As of right now, Ash is ranked 8th in the world of Pokemon, and I'm sure by the end of the series he'll be in the top 5 at least, or even take it all and be number 1, and finally become a Pokemon Master. Could this be the end of Ash in the anime? If you repeatedly press the run button in Sun and Moon, your character will trip. In Generation 4, the default names for the boy and girl are Dwight and Maggie. Just press enter when prompted to type your name and you'll see. Porygon's cry has only been heard one time in the North America anime, and it was from a Who's That Pokemon segment. Check it out.
It's Porygon!
The third place winner of the first season's Indigo League was suspiciously similar to Gon from Hunter x Hunter. And what's uncanny about this is that this episode aired in the same year that Hunter x Hunter debuted, so maybe it was a shout out to Hunter x Hunter. You can catch a level 7 Nuzleaf in the Rolling Fields area in Sword and Shield, even though Nuzleaf should evolve at level 14. The legendary bees in the Swords of Justice all share similar heights. Both Entei and Cobalion are 6'11", both Suicune and Virizion are 6'7", and both Raikou and Terrakion are 6'3". So maybe they're like distant cousins or something. In the anime, a ton of Magnemite fused together to make a gigantic eye, and it kinda reminds me of a Gigantamax. Maybe Magnemite will get one in a later game if that feature returns. Alder has more than 6 Pokemon in his party, simply because he doesn't know how to use a PC. And from his artwork alone, you can see 9 Pokeballs, but he probably has more under his cloak. According to Joe Merritt from Cerebi, these are the lifetime sales of all Pokemon games, and it seems that Red and Blue are still the highest. There's an old man in Anastar City that will pass away if the player gives him a level 5 Pokemon to take care of. But funny thing is, if you don't give him a Pokemon, he will never die. So you're essentially killing this old man if you give him a Pokemon, which is... Marlin is an overly tanned white guy. Just look at his waist and feet. This blocked secret door in Pseudopolis City was originally intended for e-reader card battles, but the idea was abandoned due to not appealing to the US audience. And funny enough, if you hack inside, it will completely crash the entire game. This Pokemon guidebook shows throwing a Master Ball at a Loudred, which I'll never understand. Before shiny Pokemon, ultra-colored Pokemon existed, and in Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, depending on how you named your Pokemon, their color palette would change, like this Rhydon for example. In 2001, Nintendo released giant legendary beast plushes, and supposedly they are currently among the rarest and most sought-after plushes in the market, going upwards to $5,000. Gastrodon are racist, because according to his Legends Arceus Pokédex entry, it states that it hates other Gastrodon of a different color. This lady on Route 118 can hop over this cliff to battle you. Professor Oak didn't have a Pikachu as a starter by accident, it was actually on purpose. He was waiting for the person who would choose Pikachu after meeting Ash 40 years prior, and when Ash picked the Pikachu, it all came together for him. In Pokemon Home, there's an unreleased cry for Jinx, and this is what it sounds like. It's theorized that this cry was made for an evolution or a Mega Evolution for Jinx. In Crystal, there's a glitch that allows you to change your character's color palette, so you can make the male character blue or the female character red. Wurmple had an extra yellow spike on the back of his head in the Legends Arceus trailer. The move Icicle Spear was completely unavailable in his debut game Ruby and Sapphire, but this is what it would have looked like if it was in those games. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, you can get the Time Travel Award if you transfer a Pokemon from Ruby and Sapphire all the way up to the current game. In Generation 2, if you interact with the window in the Light Tower, Gold will say, "My reflection, looking good." In Sun and Moon, you can change your throwing animation, which is something I never knew about. The move Thrash in Generation 5 sounds like the Super Mario Bros. Theme. Just listen for yourself. Maywild's name is spelled incorrectly in his Ruby Pokedex entry. They added an H when there's no H in his name. There was a golden Sudowoodo for a brief time in the anime. Solgaleo is the mascot of Pokemon Sun, but it's weak to fire. Lunala is the mascot of Pokemon Moon, but it's weak to dark, which just makes no sense. In Japan, they still print first edition Pokemon cards, while here in America, it was stopped over 20 years ago in 2001. Electabuzz is based on an Oni, which is an ogre wearing tiger skin as clothing. In Ruby and Sapphire, you can not only decorate your secret base, but also your room. Paris in its evolution had 3-4 times weaknesses in Generation 1, since this bug was weak to poison. Arceus is known as the Alpha Pokemon, which is why there are Alpha Pokemon in Legends Arceus. Chile's new president received a Squirtle gift from the Japanese minister. In Red and Blue, if you swim just right onto Route 20 and then come back on the top of Cinnabar, there will be an old man on top of the Cinnabar's gym, which is pretty funny. And finally, these names are currently trademarked by Pokemon, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see a Pokemon Crimson game down the road, since Scarlet and Violet fused together is Crimson. Let me know what you think will be the next Pokemon game in the comments. And there you go, 100 obscure Pokemon facts. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you enjoyed this video, I actually have another 100 facts that you probably didn't know about as well. Just click on this button right here. And also, don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell to be notified for future uploads.